Good afternoon. My name is Mr. Stephen Beckman, and today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite books of all time, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. But before I get into the book, first I would like to talk a little bit about the author, J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling, born as Joanne Rowling in July of 1965, was born in England. Now, the first thing that probably seems bizarre there is July. Now, for all of you serious Harry Potter nerds, such as myself, would realize that July is also Harry Potter's birthday, along with being the month that all of the books were published and all of the movies were released theatrically. Isn't that amazing how things coincide with one another? I sure think so. Now, after Rowling graduated from college, she graduated from Exeter University. She worked several jobs, including being a researcher for Amnesty International. And it was while working for this company that she began writing her rough draft for Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. It took her 5 years to complete her story after beginning her initial first draft. Rowling always knew she wanted to be an author. In fact, at the age of 6, she wrote a story entitled Rabbit. She took it to her mother to read, and then she asked her mom, "Hey Mom, do you like this?" Her mother obviously replied, "Yes, it's very good." What mother would not tell a 6-year-old that it's quite good? Then Rowling instantly replied back, "Great, let's have it published." Of course, her mother didn't know what to say at that remark, as you wouldn't expect a 6-year-old to ask about getting a book published. Nevertheless, Rowling always knew she wanted to be an author. She even said with her quote, "I'm purposely happy alone making things up." Clearly, she's done a phenomenal job making things up, as the Harry Potter series has made her a billionaire. She recently said that she will never say never as far as writing another Harry Potter book, but she feels like she has rounded the character of Harry Potter as far as it would go. She also has recently admitted that her character would be very similar to Hermione Granger at her age. Therefore, she's admitted that she would be a Gryffindor if she were a student at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Now, I have a few questions I'd like to ask before I seriously explain the summary of the book. I just want you to think about these questions while I explain the summary. Number 1. What were your pre-teenage years like? Number 2. What was the biggest surprise you learned before adolescence? Number 3. Were you raised to be extraordinary, or just ordinary, or unordinary? And finally, what was your toughest task at the age of 11? Now keep those in mind as we talk about the summary of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Now, being a die-hard fan of the novel, such as myself, I could go on and on and on about this novel. In fact, the first time I recorded myself, my video of the summary alone lasted 27 minutes and 38 seconds. Unfortunately, I don't believe anyone would want to listen to myself talk for that amount of time. Therefore, this summary will be shortly condensed. But keep in mind that I am still very passionate about Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and the entire series. But I will just provide a brief synopsis of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So the book begins in the year 1981. We learn that Harry Potter is born to Lily and James Potter, and apparently they would end up dying while trying to prevent the evil sorcerer, he who must not be known, from killing their son, Harry. Harry was recently born, and due to a prophecy, he was the only child who could defeat this evil sorcerer. After Harry's parents were killed, however, he who must not be named tried to kill Harry, and something went wrong, and he who must not be named ended up being everyone believes to be dead, but we don't know. Harry was then put on the front door of his only living relatives, the Dursleys. Now, the Dursleys disliked anything out of the ordinary. Therefore, They didn't think that Harry was anything they wanted people to know about, because they thought that he would be so strange and peculiar, because they thought that the Potters were strange and peculiar, being that they were different. Therefore, they had Harry living in a cupboard under the stairs of their home. They basically tried to circumvent his existence to the rest of the world. But shortly before Harry's 11th birthday, something very strange started happening. He had already noticed that when things would go wrong, or when he was scared, bizarre happenings would occur. For instance, one time he let a snake out of the cage just because he got angry at his cousin Dudley. Instantly, the cage the snake was in broke, and the snake was able to get out. Harry's uncle, Mr. Dursley, instantly knew Harry was at fault, but Harry couldn't explain what had happened. He said, "I don't know. It's like magic." His uncle, Mr. Dursley, quickly replied, "There is no such thing as magic." Harry would be locked under the cupboard under the stairs. But then something magical would happen. No pun intended. But Harry would start receiving letters. He had never received mail in his entire life. The letters didn't have a return address, but it had a symbol. The symbol included an owl, a lion, a badger, a raven, and a snake. I believe I said the letter included an owl. That's incorrect. The letter was delivered via owl travel, so I'm sorry about that. Anyways, the Dursleys quickly took the letter from Harry, and they knew exactly where it was from, so they tried to prevent the letter from being given to Harry. Unfortunately, the letters kept coming, so the Dursleys decided to take a drastic move and go on a different vacation. On their vacation, not only does Harry end up seeing the letter, he has a visitor from the wizarding world, Hagrid. Hagrid introduces himself as keeper of keys and grains at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. He explains to Harry about his family, about his parents, the fact that he too is a wizard, and about Hogwarts, the school he will be attending to learn about his magical abilities. At first, Harry is a bit nervous, but then he loves the fact of going somewhere new. Hagrid takes him to the wizarding world to purchase everything he needs for his time at Hogwarts. When he goes to Gringotts, the wizarding bank, he is stunned at how much money his parents left for him, because he was always used to having nothing. With the help of Hagrid, Harry purchased all of his supplies he needed, and he would get on the Hogwarts Express and go to Hogwarts. There he would meet two new friends, Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger. The three of them would become inseparable as the series would continue, and this story is about them all coming of age. But each year, Harry, Ron, and Hermione would have to overcome a massive obstacle. It's almost as if they weren't kids, it's almost like they were adults. And this story was no different. Not only did the three of them have to learn about the wizarding world, and Harry and Ron were not very prepared, especially Harry, being that he knew nothing of the wizarding world. And oddly enough, everyone in the wizarding world knew him, because he stopped He Who Must Not Be Named. Ron Weasley had a little better past. He comes from a family who is all wizards, so he knew a little bit about the wizarding world. Hermione Granger, on the other hand, her parents were not wizards. But not only is she super bright with spells, she is the quintessential nerd. She reads and reads and reads. She knows everything. To be honest with you, I think she was the first crush I ever had. She was absolutely amazing. Nevertheless, the three of them managed to always not only get through their school year, but they succeed in their task. In this particular year, they have to stop the Sorcerer's Stone from falling into the hands of a professor, Professor Snape, who they think is going to use the stone to bring back someone who is horrible, he who must not be named, the person who killed Harry's parents. The Sorcerer's Stone will provide immortality to anyone who uses it. Unfortunately, the stone is guarded by many obstacles, but Harry, Ron, and Hermione with the help of their other friend Neville, have to try and prevent Snape from getting the stone and to get it for themselves. Will they be able to get the stone and prevent Snape from getting it? Will they prevent He Who Must Not Be Named from returning? Read the book and find out. Now, before I let you go, I do want to make a few connections to the Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone book that I thought was interesting. There's one passage that Hermione says to Ron and Harry while they're trying to learn information about the Sorcerer's Stone's creator, Nicholas Flamel. And Hermione says, "I'm going to bed before either of you find a way to get us all killed, or worse, expelled." I loved this because when I was Hermione's age, I felt the same way. I was so worried about making a poor mistake academically. It was like that consumed my whole life. I remember in elementary school doing hours of homework because I wanted to be the brightest student in the class. So I really related to Hermione Granger in so many different ways. Secondly, there was a quote that Harry Potter says shortly after meeting Hagrid. He says, when Hagrid takes Harry to purchase his wizarding things, "But Hagrid, how am I to pay for all of this? I haven't any money." I love the maturity level and the independence that Harry is already showing. He doesn't want to rely on Hagrid for helping him. He wants to do these things himself. And even though his family had left him a fortune, he didn't know this at the time. This quote is undoubtedly illustrating that Harry would have been willing to work to pay for these items that he needed. I like that sense of independence and that sense of maturity. Go Harry Potter! Finally, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone is one of my favorite books of all time. Ironically, as excited and passionate as I've seemed about this book, it's only my 6th favorite book in the Harry Potter series, meaning it's technically one of my least favorites. But it's a great book for young adults to read, because many of the experiences that Harry, Ron, and Hermione encounter are experiences I had at that age, and all young or adolescents would experience it as well. You know, making new friends. This book, they're too young to really start developing interest in the opposite gender, but making friends, difficulties struggling in school, realizing that people don't want to understand you because of your age. There's many different things, but it's quite a great book. I would recommend anyone reading this. And of all the different themes, I would even recommend teaching this book. Because like I say, many of the things young students, particularly middle school students, could relate to. And I feel proud and I feel honored to believe that this would be a book that middle school students would value and would learn a great deal of not only information literature-wise, but also information about themselves. I really believe that even though many individuals, particularly English professors, like to teach literary classics, I believe after I retire, the Harry Potter series will be considered literary classics. Thank you so much for listening today. And as soon as you get done listening, I recommend you travel to your local Barnes & Noble's store and purchase Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.